Brian Cox, Nicole Ansari Cox, welcome to Classic FM to talk about your play, The Score, in which, Brian, you play J.S. Bach. You play his wife, Anna Magdalena. Brian, it's not the first time you've played Bach, is it? You played him in a film, The Cantor of St. Thomas, back in 1984. What's it like revisiting him?
Well, the first time around, I thought it was the most boring part I'd ever played. So I didn't think it was okay, but I just didn't get with it. And then I realized I didn't know enough about him, to be honest with you. Because there is something mysterious about Bach, because he was such a workaholic. And his own personality didn't seem to come through a lot because he was so busy working, either that or creating children.
Nicole, you play Anna Magdalena, Bach's wife. Some historians claim that she was the author of some of his music. Do we see that Anna Magdalena in this play?
Unfortunately not in this play. The play has so many themes that are absolutely amazing to watch and entertaining. No, the play doesn't go into that, but there is evidence and there are whole books and studies done on Anna Magdalena actually writing and authoring some of the compositions. She was an opera singer, so there was a lot of there was music 24/7 in their house. It's just part of their DNA. I don't doubt that she contributed in a very significant way to the compositions. She transcribed all of his music and gave him 10 children, ran the household.
She must have been exhausted.
I'm exhausted just thinking about it. I have 2 children and that's plenty. I don't know how people did it in those days.
And she bookends the drama, doesn't she? Because
yes.
He has this journey. She's there at the beginning, she's there at the end.
Yes. There's an added scene now in the middle of Anna Magdalena, where we really see how she stands her ground and how powerful she was in the household, in protecting Bach and the children. And she wasn't a wallflower. She was very significant in all of his work. Really, it's intertwined.
And you were a husband and wife team playing a husband and wife team. It's not the first time that you've done this, and it's not the first time you've been directed by Trevor Nunn either. You were in Rock and Roll together.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And now I spoke to Trevor just before we sat down for this interview, and I asked him what it was like directing the pair of you. Now, what do you think he might have said? Brian.
I have no idea.
They're a delight. No, they're delight.
They're delightful, absolutely delightful.
No, he did say you were delightful. But I asked him, it can't be the first time that he's directed a pair of actors who happen to be married, and of course it isn't. But he said because you have that domestic shorthand, you know each other so well, you bring that to the role. Do you find that as well?
Oh yeah,
that's helpful?
that is
it's a given.
It's a given. But we have so many people who ask us, "Oh, you work together? Oh my God, I hope that you're not going to get divorced afterwards." And for us, it's actually the opposite. Every time we work together, it actually brings us closer. We're happier. We don't have to fly around to see each other. We're right there.
And you get to play every night.
And we get to play off each other. And we have similar sensibilities in the artistic realm, similar ideas and feelings about creation. Yeah, so it's actually a lot of fun.
We get to see 2 different Bachs, don't we? Because we get to see this domestic Bach, very relaxed, enjoying, his family life, and then the life at court. How do those 2 Bachs differ?
Well, they differ in the sense that initially he's very reluctant to go to the court. And it's actually Anna Magdalena who really pushes him to go. And because he's just a little confused about what he feels. What he feels about Frederick the Great, what he feels about this man who collects composers. I mean, he collected composers, including Bach's son, Karl. Karl was part of the court. So he goes with the pretense that he's seeing his son and his granddaughter. But there's more to it because he's also wanting kind of recognition. He's kind of teased by it, But at the same time, he has this other problem, which is to do with what's happening in Leipzig, which is there's been a rape of a blind girl. The place is in a terrible state. The troops were coming from Silesia, where there was a big campaign, and he sorted that out. They stop in Leipzig, and mayhem, absolute mayhem, goes on, and that's what Bach has seen and witnessed, and resulting in the rape of this blind girl. So he's sort of filled by that, which finally comes out in the second half of the play, where he just finally realizes that is something that's a source of great distress to him.
And what is the score in question?
It's a fugue.
It's a fugue written by that Frederick the Great dreams his theme one night, and he then asks his composers to improvise on this theme. None of them can do it, but Bach does. He wrote a couple of fugues, a couple of cantatas, a lot of stuff. But also, it was very revealing about Frederick's true character, and therefore Frederick has.
And his trauma.
And his trauma.
Really, his
and
trauma.
His trauma, yeah, exactly. So then Frederick has to acknowledge what he is, and the decision he has to make was whether does he continue to be this warmonger, or does he become, because he also wants to compose, does he become a flautist? He was a flautist as
He's
well.
a flawed flautist.
Flawed flautist.
So is it a play about the healing power of music?
Well, absolutely. It really is about how music does heal, and also how music reveals. It's more about how music reveals the inner man or the inner woman, And I think that's, of course, what I discovered. My personal relationship with Bach was I discovered the man, having not understood the man before, because I was in my late 30s when I did it, but I didn't get it. But now I got it because I knew what he was about in terms of what that music was to him, and the range of it is astonishing. It's astonishing. It's interesting that Bach went through a very bad period. He became really rather unacknowledged, and it's Felix Mendelssohn who we have to thank for bringing Bach to the fore and saying, this is the great lost composer of all times, And therefore his success has grown and grown and grown.
Now, he was the head of a musical dynasty. He fathered some 20 children. It would be remiss of me not to draw parallels with Logan Roy from Succession.
He didn't have 20 children.
No, but is there anything of Logan Roy's parenting, do you think, to be found in J.S. Bach?
I think that Bach, I don't think so. I think,
he must have been a drill sergeant.
Yeah,
to get the children in line. Yes.
Well, when I did the first film about it, I had a sequence where all the kids. That was one really interesting sequence where we're all in the same room playing different music, which was. But that's what happened. Everybody would play, and he would be there, and he'd be there. Carl would be there playing something, and it would be a long room, and they'd be playing at different ends and different music. It was astonishing. It was so in their blood what they did, and of course the children inherited it.
Now, as this is Classic FM, is there a piece of Bach that each of you would like us to take away from this? What is your favourite piece of Bach's music?
Well, my favourite piece of Bach music is, and it was Oliver, the writer, Oliver Cotton, who played it to me on the classical guitar. And I didn't even know it was Bach, which is the Chacun. And I just heard this piece, and I remember he said, and he played it on the classical guitar. I said, that's incredible. I'd heard the Chacun, but I never heard it played in this way. I said, that's an incredible piece. What is it? He said, it's Bach. I said, come on. I said, no, it's Bach. It's Bach's Chacun. He wrote it. So you realize that the range that Bach had, it's just astonishing. And he was totally dedicated. That was his life. His life was his family, his wife, his children, and his music.
And Nicole, which piece of Bach's would you like to recommend?
I would be remiss not to mention the Matthew Passion, of course. And also the fact that we play Bach for children to lull them into a sleep, to calm them down. If you listen to Bach, it really is healing music. It is it's so perfect in the harmonies. It's just, I can't think of a time where I wasn't listening to Bach.
Well, The Score, a play about the healing power of music. I can't wait to see it. Brian, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us on Classic FM.
Thank you for having us.